Earth is home to many creatures. Some may even consider a few of them monsters. But what of those more elusive and hidden creatures? The ones we just can't seem to find. Welcome to Monday Morning Monsters. Cryptozoologist and paranormal researcher Barnaby Jones talks about the unknown, mythical, undiscovered, and unidentified creatures from around the world, and the people who have seen them, look for them, and research them. Hear from witnesses about their encounters, as well as renowned names in the field about their work and research. Barnaby is the founder and lead investigator for Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society based in Wisconsin. CAPS travels across Wisconsin and beyond looking for connections between different phenomena and how they can all be connected. Now, your host of Monday Morning Monsters, Barnaby Jones.
Good morning, monsters. How's everybody doing out there this morning? Today, I have some unfortunate news. Jody Cook, who was our scheduled guest for this week, had a family situation and could not make it. So today, you have the unfortunate privilege of being my co-host on a lot of episodes of Whispers from the Dark. He is one of the founding members of Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, my friend Ethan Brook. How you doing?
Good. Giving everyone's favorite gift of disappointment today.
Awesome. Cool. Well, it's good to have you on. Thank you for coming last minute, Before we get to Ethan, I wanted to give you some... I had to introduce him because he's literally sitting right here. So if I didn't introduce him, you'd all be like, why is there another person just sitting behind you in the room? Is he just creeping? Which he probably is, to be fair. But yeah, so upcoming stuff. We just got back. Well, I did. Me and Ma were up at the Michigan Paranormal MI Paracon this past weekend, and it was a huge 4-day event. I told you a little bit about it last week. There was some phenomenal people up there, and we got to talk to some of them, well, most of them, and I actually got a new guest scheduled coming up. So on September 26th, you guys will all want to tune in because we have Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot will be on the show. We also have Russell Accord from Expedition Bigfoot, but I do not have a date for him yet. He needs to check back with his schedule, and hopefully we'll get him on as well. But Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot will be on the show on September 26th. And for those of you who were unfortunately not able to see Jody Cook from the North American Dogman project, he will be back on September 19th. He has been rescheduled for. And then next week's show, we have no guest. Labor Day, we are off for that, so guys, go out there and enjoy. The CAPS team is on the road, out exploring and doing some investigating and stuff, so we'll be out of town. And when we come back, we have Dan Nettarello, who is a herpetologist, a photographer, and a Bigfoot researcher on. So this guy's awesome. I've heard him talk at some one of the presentations we've done. He has traveled all over. He's recently been out to Salt Forks for the Ohio Bigfoot Convention, and as well as the Hocking Hills Bigfoot Convention as well recently. And he actually was at MI Paracon this past weekend as well. For upcoming events, we are September 17th. You can come find us in Ripon, Wisconsin at the Potographs event. And nice. Congratulations, Jacob, on your certification as a psychic medium. Cool. Attaboy. And we have September 24th. We will be in Van Meter, Iowa for the Van Meter Iowa Visitor Festival with Chad Lewis and Nash Hoover from Chasing Legends and a lot of cool people out there as well. So now on to you.
All right.
So why don't you, for those of you who don't know, you're obviously a member of the CAPS team, and why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Basically, ever since you messaged me that one week and were like, hey, you want to do this? Yeah, sounds like fun. I've been drug around to a lot of the stuff that's been going on, and I'm critical of everything.
That is very true. What is it that you always say?
Give me 1 second before I get my thoughts. It's early. Remind me. I have multiple things
If we can't prove it to you, yeah, well, we don't want you to say those on the air. If we can't prove it to you, then we can't prove it to the audience.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't want to be too forgiving with stuff, because if you just say everything might be this, you have no credibility.
Mm-hmm.
Put it through the ringer. Even if there's a shredded out, put it to the side.
That's definitely true. And as you said, we have been all over the state of Wisconsin together. We started CAPS in August of 2019, and I think you came on board in September, October of that year.
Shortly after.
It was right away in the beginning. So you weren't one of the original 4 or 5 founding members, but you were the next one after that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you were right there at the beginning of this, and it's been since 2019 that even out of state, we've gone all the way up to Upper Michigan to the Hayden Adventure. We've done the Paulding Light.
Yep.
And we've gone down to Chicago looking for the Chicago Mothman, which was one of your projects.
Yep.
So what do you want to start with? What do you want to talk about?
You threw me to this last minute, so it's your show.
Well, yeah, but you're the guest. Like, this is your thing. We got to talk to you.
Yeah, well, that's true.
All right. Well, let's start out with. You want to do Mothman or Bigfoot?
Well, we have more stuff for Bigfoot.
So you want to start with that?
Yeah, let's start with that, because that we have the most on.
All right. So we got me and Luke were down in Burlington Woods. And we were doing an investigation down there one night, and it got back really late. And another member of my team, Derek, emailed me this article that was written by another paranormal society. And it talked about a series of howls that were recorded in the Rhinelander area. And this was like at, 10, 11 o'clock at night when I got this. And I messaged you, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Do you want to go check this out? And we ended up getting in touch with the guys that recorded those howls and going down and going up. Right?
Yeah, up, technically.
I always get those mixed up and down. But so yeah, you want to pick up the story there?
Yeah, we were out there 3 times in less than 2 months or something like that. We were out there quite a bit. The guys came across as... They wouldn't be the type to chase fame.
Definitely
they seemed very, very genuine, which I like, because if someone's chasing fame, I don't believe them, because they have an ulterior motive. Where these guys kind of went back and forth where, are they willing to be put on camera, not willing to be put on camera, everything like that, which to me lends to credibility.
Yeah, so the basic story there was that these guys heard a bunch of howls coming from across the river, the Pelican River, and they recorded them. Then they decided to sit out and listen for them. So they heard this thing come across the river. They saw eye shine. They went and chased it. They actually got a footprint cast from there. And this was about the time when we picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
And we went out there, and you actually got to see the spot where that footprint was.
Yeah, and they walked us physically through the whole area where all their story took place, which was good because it's firsthand experience. You can actually visualize it then. It's not just someone sitting across from you at a diner telling you a story.
And recent. We were there about 2 weeks after it actually happened. So we were right there, because obviously we weren't there right away because they didn't submit the story to this other place, and then the other place didn't post it right away either. So we had to wait a couple weeks, and it was about 2 weeks looking back in my notes on it that we actually were on scene. And the footprint, we actually still had footprints there that we got pictures of.
Yep. It was degraded by that time, but it was still viewable.
Mm-hmm. So we actually were able to follow these footprints along next to where that dog park was. And there was one really clear footprint there. So then what happened was we actually we heard 3 howls.
Yep.
Well, I know you heard one.
All of them. I heard, I think, 1 or 2 right at the tail end.
Yeah.
But of course my hearing's not as good as yours, and that's from years of not using ear protection with certain things.
Yeah. But yeah, even for me to hear them, they were very faint. They had to be on the other side of the thing. It's all part of our episode, the Rhinelander Howls on YouTube. You can, everything we're saying here, you can see the pictures, you can watch us do it and all that stuff. It's all, hear the witnesses and stuff. It's all part of that on YouTube. But yeah, so when you heard these stories and that, like, what were you thinking? Did you actually think that, because this is, aside from the stuff that we witnessed in Burlington, which you hadn't been part of the team yet, aside from that, like, you obviously hadn't seen a Bigfoot or heard a Bigfoot or anything before this point. So when we're out there and we're looking at these footprints and the footprint cast that they had, what are you thinking? Are you thinking this is legit, or are you thinking, bear or human, or what are you thinking?
It's one of those, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt at first, run it through, rule out the obvious things like bears and, bear prints, easy to figure out. They're a lot smaller. They're still huge, but they're not that big. And being my first interaction with something that could possibly be, it's like, okay, run it through the ringer, make sure everything checks out, look at it from all angles. Is it just your brain trying to make an image out of something that's nothing? Like when you look at a cloud, you see a picture. Well, that's your brain trying to create that image so it makes sense.
Pareidolia.
Yep. Which is what I think a lot of things end up being when you get like photographs of, hey, this was in the smoke. It's like, no, it's just smoke. And you know how I feel about those.
Yeah, that's another whole episode there. But yeah, so then after we had ended up getting these footprints and checking this all out, we ended up going to do a night stakeout I think it was the following week.
Yeah, it was a week or 2 weeks after. It was real fast. I know we spent a lot of time up there in a short amount of time.
Yeah. So we went up there, I think it was Friday night. Me and you went up there, and we actually went through Homebow, the wildlife area right there. And I think we found 2 prints.
Yeah.
There was the snow ice print that, obviously you are, like you said, very skeptical and stuff. So when I found that, definitely it is degraded. It is in the snow. It's melted out. But, I believe you believe that thing was a footprint at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like with the way snow and ice melts, if an object sits on it, it collects sunlight, it warms up, it melts the ice around it. If you had properly placed objects, yes, it could create that shape, but it didn't look like that.
Right. So I think that was the next piece of evidence that we kind of found up there. And then right above there, right where we found that footprint, we had placed a trail camera and an audio recorder that we were going to let run all night. And then we found that footprint, which was like, well, good, this is, right in the right spot.
Yeah.
And I saw this ridge, and I was like, hey, I'm going to go check out the top of this ridge. So I went up to the top of the ridge and started walking along it. And I started coming across like these different structures and stuff. And that's when I called you up there.
Yeah.
Because I actually saw this, what looked like a rock cave or something. And I wasn't sure. Like, you don't want to go poking around in this kind of stuff by yourself. So I wanted to make sure that I got you up there. And so I waited until you got up there. So now we're up there at the top of this ridge, looking at these different broken off trees, big trees, about 2 inches around trees. And some like woven stick structures. And what are you thinking at that point?
At that point, it's just, okay, figure out what's going on. It's like, what is it? Just run it through. Is it something Ford teenagers made? Because there is a lot of that you see out in the woods, especially in public areas where, for lack of a better term, hippies just like to put wood stuff together. It's like, is it just bored hippies, or is it something else?
And we should mention at this point, there is bushcraft in the area.
Yes.
And what bushcraft is, you want to explain what that is?
I'll let you do that one. You probably have a better grasp on defining it than I do.
All right. Bushcraft is like when people that are out like survivalists and stuff, campers and that, they build structures to support tarps and other tents and stuff like that so that they can, do camping and stuff. A lot of like teepees. There's this huge teepee up in the Rhinelander woods where we go, and it definitely was man-made, like no doubt. And there's also another like lean-to structure made out of sticks that is definitely man-made. And I'm sure you're asking yourself, like, well, if these are man-made and we know that they're man-made, now we're talking about all these other structures. And we can get into more of that, like as far as like these structures. I do an entire presentation comparing the Rhinelander stuff, which is public, hiking trails and stuff. And well, this stuff is very off trail.
Yeah, it is off trail, but it's not unheard of to go that far off, because in all reality, it isn't that big. and it butts up to that other highway too. So you have another entry point that's closer to that area.
As I was saying, though, with the public versus private, we actually have, I do a presentation on the private property, 80 acres of private land, where we're finding these very similar structures as well. And, I challenge you guys to go out and look at these like different nature areas and stuff and try and find similar structures. Like if you go to a place where like a public park and stuff where there's a lot of people traveling there, because if these things are made by people, go out and try and find them. We have a lot of nature centers around here. We have like Heckrot and Thousand Islands and all that. And I've looked for some of these similar stuff because, these are maintained and stuff. But if these are natural falling, you should see this a lot more common than what we're seeing.
You see it everywhere. Another thing is like, if the popular thing right now is rock stacking, which I'm not a fan of, which I won't go into right now. But so if you see rock stacking, there's a good chance you'll also see the bushcraft.
Well, while we're on rock stacking, let's talk about that for a little bit, because I see a lot of like DNR and wilderness sites and stuff talking about do not do rock stacking because it disturbs your natural habitats of these animals. A lot of like salamanders and frogs like live under these rocks, and when you're stacking them up, they can fall over. You're disturbing the whole natural area of these creatures by stacking the rocks. Is that where you were going to go with that? So I think it's a good point to bring that up here.
And then another thing is like in some of the major parks, there's older rock stacks that were actually meant as like trail markers too. So in those bigger parks like Yellowstone, whatever, you don't want to build a rock stack there because not only is it bad for the environment, you also have the possibility that you're going to throw someone off and get them lost. And in a place like Yellowstone, do you really want to get lost?
Yes. No. Okay, no. On that note as well, national parks are federally protected. And if you take a rock from a national park, you can be fined and put in prison for that.
They have to catch you first. But
my
mom always told me it's only illegal if you get caught.
Monday Morning Monsters does not condone the...
But no, you shouldn't take anything out of a federal park. You shouldn't take anything out of any wood area, in all honesty.
We on the Gettysburg episode that we did, we actually put that in there because there was when we came to the one area, one of the park security guards actually stopped a couple, and actually an older couple that had taken rocks, and he basically told them, you need to give them back. That you didn't do anything wrong yet, but you need to give them back. And we brought that up with Clayton, our guide that night, and he said, a lot of times, it is, number one, illegal to take things from these parks, and number two, a lot of people that have taken stuff from Gettysburg have mailed it back because they took something else with it. And I thought that was a very interesting note. Like I'm sure, like maybe Yellowstone or stuff like that isn't going to have that, but places like Gettysburg or other paranormally hot spots and stuff, that's kind of an interesting fact.
And that's people mailing things back to Gettysburg. I believe the first time I heard that might have been even on like Unsolved Mysteries or something. That story's been around for forever.
That's really cool. But speaking of rocks, back to Rhinelander here. So we got up on top of this ridge. And we're looking down at this huge pile of rocks. Like not like a pile of rocks, but like like maybe when they were building the highway or something.
Yeah, it kind of looked like a county dump site from road construction where they removed a lot of the larger rocks they found underneath the ground as they were laying down the asphalt, stuff like that. It was industrial waste.
It was pretty big, probably 70 feet long by like 20, 30 feet wide.
Yeah, and then probably a good, 10 feet tall?
Yeah.
if not more.
Yep.
And it'd been there for decades.
Oh yeah, it was.
You could tell by the growth in it and on it. It was there for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I, from above, was a little hesitant in thinking that there may be like a cave or something in this rock formation because I couldn't see up there. So that's why I made sure that I had some backup and didn't go in alone. You know, you don't want to go places alone if you can help it. You know, it's always dangerous and stuff. But so once Ethan arrived up there with me, then we went down there together and started making our way around. And I remember telling you there's a very bad smell here, like rotting decay and stuff. And then you're like, well, there's your decay.
Yeah.
And as we came around the front end of it, we literally found what we describe as a graveyard because there was just multiple species of dead animal parts, pieces, skeletons.
You had rabbits, coyotes, other small animals. There were parts of deer.
Fish.
Yep. And my opinion, once we really looked at it, was that it's a dump site for a poacher. Just because tool marks, the way they were skinned, to me, it just says someone was just taking the furs. Especially like on some of the rabbits, you would have the nice cuff around the ankle where when they skin them, they cut there. It if it was torn off, it wouldn't have been a perfect circle around the wrist.
Yep, and same with the deer and stuff too.
But it did take us a while to come to that conclusion because, one, you had to stomach it, and two, you really had to look and then get online real quick and look up a guide like, how do you skin this animal? You know, look for the obvious telltale signs of tool marks, everything like that.
But just because these things were, skinned by possibly human or, other things, you definitely have a lot of stuff there. I mean, so one of the thoughts that we had was that this was like if these creatures, Bigfoot, were eating these animals there. You had a nice spot where they could sit and watch the highway. Very clear view out to the highway. It was probably 500 feet away.
Yeah, and it was down in where the highway was elevated. So you had the vantage point by actually being down below.
Yeah, so nothing was going to see you down there unless it was specifically looking for you. And so one of my thoughts was that, if these things are, what do you call it? Not scavengers, but, like...
opportunistic.
Thank you. Yeah. You have all this roadkill and stuff up on the highway right there from the woods. All you got to do is go up there and you get a free buffet. You take it back. You can sit here, enjoy your snack, and watch whatever's going by.
And then if you do even have like a poacher dumping there, well, you're still going to get fresh or mostly fresh carcass every once in a while. So any scavenger opportunistic creature is going to go for it because you'll be able to tell by the smell and everything like that. It's like, hey, fresh food.
Yeah, so right in this area where this the rock formation was, have you looked into, what is that? Tennessee case? No. We have gone down to Kentucky and Tennessee. You're going to see that coming up in the next episode. We just released an episode on YouTube this past weekend of the Kentucky Portal 31 mine shaft. We went down and did a paranormal investigation on there. The next episode that's coming out, this is August, so October. When it comes out in October, we're actually going Bigfooting in Kentucky and Tennessee with the Turtle Man from Animal Planet. And he had his own Bigfoot sighting down there. And we went out with him and did, if nothing else is true about this man, he's an amazing tracker. And it was such a really good experience to go through the woods with him and just learn how to track. And I think that's the most beneficial thing that I got out of going down there with him is just being able to see this stuff. So we went through, I can't disclose where we were. We kind of agreed to that. But there's certain areas we went with him that had a lot of Bigfoot activity. And then we did some other areas on our own. We went to the Porcupine Mountains where Expedition Bigfoot had been. So that's where we went. There's a newer incident. Hang on a second. So there's a newer incident. A young lady and an older man killed by a pack of dogs. I think I do know about this. Yet the bite marks were 15 inches and her lower half was severed.
I'm doing a little bit of on-the-fly searching to see what I can pull up on that.
That's another thing Ethan's good at. Whenever we see something, I like, hey, and he's already looking it up. So I believe that I have heard about that. But it's we do investigate things outside of Wisconsin, but we haven't. We're so busy with conventions and everything around here, and our own research up here, that we don't get down to Kentucky or Tennessee all that often. We'll be down there in November, but yeah.
This is interesting. I'll send you the link to the news article.
Cool. I will read it. I will look into it, and if you remind me next week, I'll let you know what I think. Thanks for watching.
We'll do some research. Maybe we can touch on that in the future.
Yeah. Cool. We will have Jody Cook again, as I said, who was supposed to be on today's episode. He is the head of the North American Dogman project, and he will be on September 19th. And maybe we can get some feedback on him. 15 inches is a huge mouth, though. I mean, like, that doesn't sound like Bigfoot.
No, but it is pretty big. I'm kind of looking at the news article, and they're getting like one report is saying pack a dog, stuff like that. And it's like, of course people want answers, so they're going to push out answers. And because, from my professional experience, I've been involved in that side of the world. And sometimes explanations are just pushed out to put people to rest.
Can you touch? What are you doing?
I'm not something over.
Breaking stuff. Can you no bipedal canine?
Okay, it's kind of like Dogman.
No bipedal canine is my theory. Are you saying like you think that it is that? Yeah, I would definitely think that.
That's where my mind goes. If you have that big of a bite radius, and then
yeah,
other signs of canine attack, it's like, okay, well, is it another beast of Walworth County, everything like that? Michigan Dogman. That's what comes to mind.
Mm-hmm, definitely. You have a muzzle. I mean, a muzzle on a regular dog is like 6 inches or so.
Yeah,
it can be.
Not that big.
And if you're talking about a dog that's twice the size of a normal dog, in the least, it's definitely possible that you could have a 15-inch.
And then another thing, because I know how I think this, someone will point out, well, what if it's multiple bites in the same spot?
Yeah.
Well, any autopsy tech is going to be able to discern whether it's one bite mark or multiple in the same area that are causing it, that measurement.
Anyone that wants to admit it, I would say.
Yeah.
This might be a good point to stop, and if you can talk about what you've done for a career in the past.
I used to be involved in the funeral industry. Currently still somewhat involved, but I just more work with product now instead of an actual funeral home. But I've seen lots of things that no one should ever see.
Yeah. So Ethan does also bring that to the team as far as, just the knowledge of post-mortem and stuff like that in human and other situations.
The timeline of how, like with our graveyard, how desiccation and decomposition works to create a timeline and everything like that. It wasn't active decay. We were in the dry desiccation stages. Yep. So everything had been there a long time.
Yeah. Which, if we're having recent activity in Rhinelander, you're definitely not going to see that old of stuff if they're feeding.
Mm-hmm. You're going to see fresh, active decomp, not dry and jerky.
Bigfoot doesn't like jerky. Thank you for comments. I don't know who you are. Yes. Just click off it. Yes. No on Bigfoot. Yeah. But yes, we are either Dogman or bipedal canine. When I was mentored by Butch Witowski, he believed the two were different. Yep. The bite marks that supposedly 15-inch would be larger than your average size Dogman according to sightings. Just my 2 cents. You didn't ask for it. I did ask for it. I did. I do appreciate it. I don't know who you are because Facebook has a privacy thing, so it just shows Facebook user. I love to know who you are. If you want to leave your name in the comments, or if you don't want to, that's fine too. But if you want to be a guest on a show coming up, by all means, shoot me a message to wisconsincaps.com and then click on the email us or anything. Cool. I will remember that. Shoot me a friend request or something. We can talk sometime. Yeah, but definitely thank you for listening. And obviously, if you're talking Dogman, I'm sorry that Jody Cook is not on the show today as we were hoping. He will be on September 19th. He had a family situation arise that he was unable to be on the show today. But so we have Ethan, who is our resident skeptic and expert on things wilderness and dead and stuff like that. So we are going to take a quick break here for the station, and we'll be right back with what happened the first night that we were out there researching in Rhinelander.
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.
The station mobile app is finally here and ready for you to download free. With the app, you can listen to past shows, view upcoming live shows, read our blog, and even shop. Get yours today at the App Store and Google Play under WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Stay connected and informed. WLTK-DB Talk Radio mobile app. It's yours. Go get it. Come see our new station shop for some amazing top quality merchandise. There is something for everyone, like blankets, electronics, clothing, and much more. Head on over to WLTK-DB.com and click shop to show your support by sporting our logo. The WLTK-DB station shop at WLTK-DB.com. Paranormal talk is our business. And business is good.
Welcome back to Monday Morning Monsters. I'm your host, Barnaby, and today sitting in, my co-host is Ethan. And Ethan is our resident skeptic and fellow team member for Cryptids Anomalies and the Paranormal Society. He's been with us since the very beginning.
I'm just your store brand guest for the day.
Our guest was supposed to be Jody Cook from the North American Dogman Project, but whenever I decided that whenever I had a guest that canceled last minute and I couldn't get a replacement, I was going to start pulling team members in. So we got a lot to talk about. So yeah. So I appreciate you. I don't know if I've ever told you that. You make the long drives on the roads and stuff very entertaining, to say the least.
That's just because I'm verbally abusive to everyone.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. He hurts me. If I had a doll, I'd show you where, but we're not allowed. Yeah, so we are talking about our first major Bigfoot case that we did, which was in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. And if you're just tuning in, we found a lot of evidence. My guy, yeah, you got a fan. You got a fan.
Everyone with bad taste usually likes me.
That shows why we're friends right there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey. Hi, Ellie. How's it going? I clicked on the wrong one there. There we go. My guy. See, that's his buddy here. All right, we're good. Good morning, Ellie. How are you doing? You didn't get to meet Ethan. He wasn't there. She was one of the people that came into the Bean Snappers Paranormal Expedition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and that gives us a nice segue here. Thank you, Ellie. For those of you who are interested in coming out to do a paranormal investigation with the CAPS team, myself and Ethan, and a few of our other members. Yeah, you didn't. I'm sorry. we'll have to have you guys meet sometime.
That's the one I thought was last weekend, right? But it was actually the weekend before.
Yeah, Ethan sent me a message on Saturday and he goes, "Hey, what time tomorrow is that thing?" And I said, I have nothing going on tomorrow." And so he was a week off, but
Yeah.
So
that was all on me.
But yeah, you guys don't want to miss it. On September 18th, we have a in-person paranormal investigation at the Gainers Tavern, which is currently Bean Snappers Gentlemen's Club. It is haunted, and we can talk about that more towards the end here. I want to finish the Rhinelander stuff up here, but definitely if you're looking for it, we're also going to have investigations. You guys can come out, get tickets, and come out and investigate that with us. It will be every weekend. Every Sunday in October, we will have tickets available. We'll be releasing those within the next week or so here. Right now, the only tickets are left are for the September 18th. We have 5 tickets left last time I looked, so you guys can come out and check that out. Paranormal Investigation, Gainers Tavern, Mackville, Wisconsin. But back to Rhinelander. So we had all this evidence. We had the footprints, we had the howls, and all this stuff. So we decided that we were going to do a stakeout to try and listen for Bigfoot. So we were at base camp, which would be right where they there's an apartment building there that they were living in, and that's where we kind of did the stakeout, was back behind the garage there. And we weren't getting a lot there.
No, it was pretty quiet, so we decided to get in my car and head over and kind of go look down by the Graveyard Big Rock area when we get a call from the people that had originally taken us out there, and they were just going off on about all this stuff going on. So we had
crossing the water.
So we had to race back to the apartments, which was 2 miles driving?
Not even, yeah.
Yeah, because we pulled into the parking lot across the walkway and then ran down the walkway back to the apartments.
Yeah, so we were over basically directly across from where those guys were, but on the other side of the woods, this nature area. And then there's the nature area, and then the Pelican River, and then their apartments. And we got a message while we're sitting over there, scoping out by the graveyard.
Yep.
And they said it was crossing the river, something was coming across. They could hear it. So we came back and we parked at the opposite end of this walking path.
Yeah, it's like a walking path it goes along the river from the apartments down to by where their wastewater treatment plant is. And it's kind of hard to explain, but it's just like a quick little nature trail the city put in as an afterthought, I would say, next to the dog park as well. So it's kind of a menagerie of different public options.
And what started happening is once we got down to this far end of this, something started throwing rocks across the river to them. And I got out of the car very hesitantly, and I took my thermal imaging camera and I started walking down this trail towards those guys, scanning the opposite bank. And you could hear splash, splash, splash of these things throwing stuff in the water from the other shore.
And they were fairly sizable splashes. You know the difference between a regular skipper rock getting thrown in the water or a rock that weighs 3-4 pounds or more.
Yeah, and I got back to the base camp there where they were, and everything kind of settled down. And they informed me that they had started a fire behind the garage. And right when they did that, everything started acting up. So we had our big Caps van, and we had it set up with security cameras and everything. And they actually were aiming the security cameras around and stuff to try and capture this for us. So I got in the van and I started going over the footage to see what they had captured, if they got anything. And while I'm doing this, one of the guys, Colton, comes running over to the van. They're throwing rocks again. They're throwing rocks again. And we go back out. And at this point, this is right after you had, because he had parked down at the other end and drove his car around back to the base camp because they don't connect. It's just a trail. And so now we're on the banks of the Pelican River. Something on the other side is throwing rocks.
And we used the thermal, and at that time you just had the little handheld thermal, which
I had the video
and then the one on your cat phone.
Yep.
But they're both decent, but compared to what we have now, they're not that great. They're still a usable tool, but not as good as the current stuff we use.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the 2 signatures?
One.
Yep.
So I'm scanning along the bank of the other side, and I hear there's different splashes. There's at least 2 of these things throwing rocks at us from across the other side of this river. And you can hear splash over here, you can hear splash over here. And they're coming in a rapid pattern that you can tell that it's not the same thing throwing these. And I finally scan over, and I pick up this little blob squatch on the thermal. I mean, it's a heat signature. It's not a tree. It's nothing like that. And I'm getting this signature, and it shows it throw its arm back and then lob forward, and then you hear a splash, and it doesn't move after that. But it's very, very distinct that, this thing, you see the movement of something, and then you hear the splash.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is this is early. This was in March of 2020.
Yep.
And so there's not a lot of tree cover yet, but there was enough that I was shooting through a branch on our shore. So I couldn't see with the naked eye, like shining a flashlight over there to see anything, because I'm shooting through a tree. But this tree isn't, what's putting off the thing. Whatever's on the other side is the heat signature,
mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yep.
And so I can't see over there aside from the heat signature. We ended up watching this thing on thermal for about 10 minutes before I finally went, it's not moving. I'm going to get a better angle at this thing. And I walked about 15 feet down the shore, and it's like it knew, and it's gone. I never picked up the heat signature again. There was no more rocks thrown after that last one. So either it knew that we had found it, or, these things are very intelligent.
Yeah, and that was a good, 45 minutes of just high energy, us trying to locate or figure it out, and just this constant splash of rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Just constant.
Mm-hmm. It was definitely, you see parts of it on the episode. For anybody that actually wants to see it, let me know. And I can send, or I can share you the entire 15 minutes of this, or 15 minutes, like you said, the whole session of this. On the DVD, we actually have the full thermal imaging video, which is about 15 minutes of just staring at this spot. And it, trying to get a better look at it. So it's not like, people say, well, it's just this, whatever it is. But you want the evidence, we got the evidence. But
and the thing to remember, that thermal was shooting 100 feet away.
Oh, more than that.
Yeah. So it was quite a distance away, and it was still picking up a decent sized signature.
Yeah. I want to say that the Pelican River at that point is between 150 to 200 feet across. And these things are lobbing rocks across, and they're splashing over 3/4 of the way across.
Yeah. It's an actual river. It's not a creek. It's a river.
Yeah. So we figured out basically the next day that the rocks are probably about the size of your fist, because we were trying to chuck rocks across from the other side to see,
simulate the sound, match it.
Yep. Because the difference between the size of a rock splashing in the water, how loud it is, and how, what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So we figured that they're about the size of a fist, and none of us, Colton is 6 foot something, and he's a big guy.
Yeah.
And he could not throw a rock over halfway across that river. And these things were landing and splashing them on the river side, on the bank. Like they were getting wet on our side of the river.
Mm-hmm.
So these whatever was over there was throwing a lot of distance.
Yeah.
So you ended up going home that night.
Yep. I think I had to work the next day or something like that.
Something. Yeah. You had a funeral the next day.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I spent the night there. Nothing else really happened that I was aware of. But the next day, myself, Colton, and Taylor, the 2 witnesses, we went over onto the other side of the Pelican River then, and we started looking around in there. And we found 3 different size tracks. I believe they were 14, 11, and 9. All barefoot humanoid tracks. And they were all over in that nature preserve the next day. So whatever was in there had traversed quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't believe me, I actually have a cast of. So what happened is we went down on the opposite shore where they were, and there's all these tracks running around, and you know, like everybody's seen a footprint track, you know, like you've seen the Patterson Gimlin footprint and all that stuff, but not everyone looks for handprint tracks, or not tracks, but handprints.
Yeah.
And we found what we believe to be the handprint of one of these creatures that had squatted down to either pick up a rock or duck down from our view or something. And it was very interesting in the ground because you could see where the mud was like smeared, like twisted into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not very, like, what else would make that impression? Because you have all these footprints there, and then you have this weird smear right on the bank of the river. And I started looking at it closer, and you can start to see fingerprint holes, but there was only 3. And then way off, you can see this like big smear where the thumb would have been on the end. And way off to the side is a pinky off on that. So like splayed, kind of more like that. And this is what we ended up pulling out of the ground. So it's kind of hard to see, but so this would be the thumb. And then you have 1, 2, 3, where is it? 3 fingers. 1, I can't point there. Whatever. 3 fingers. 1, 2, 3 fingers. And then the third one is way off over here. So you can kind of see, I mean, this is about 11 inches long from the heel back here to up to the fingertips. So this is a big hand. And I know, like, the video is not really good to try and see that, but and if you're listening on a podcast, I apologize in not being able to see it in person. But this is, you know, you have, if you ever come see us in person, we actually show these casts, so you can take a look at this for yourself, and you can see how big it is and the details and stuff. But this is definitely interesting. I had Cliff Barrickman and Jeff Meldrum and Lauren Coleman all look at this, and they were pretty confident that this was a handprint of a Bigfoot, which even Cliff said is these things are not very common because people don't ever think to look for handprint casts. They always look for the footprints. So that's really interesting. So again, if you ever come see us out in person, anywhere that we're going to be, you guys can definitely take a look at this. We bring a copy of this cast along with us. We actually sell copies of this if you're interested as well. And you can see it in the episode, The Rhinelander Howls. And yeah, what do you have to add?
I think just watching how that displayed on the camera, it's one thing to remember is that was wet mud.
Yes.
So it's very hard to cast, and the camera does not catch the details like it
No.
should. So I'll be the first to say it looks 10 times worse on camera.
It does, yeah. It's very over-modulated and too bright, but that's what I said. If you ever see us in person, or if you go on our YouTube, you can see pictures of it on the Rhinelander Howls episode,
Right.
part 2.
Color corrected and displays better.
And you can see the hole in the ground that we actually took it out of on the episode as well. So that's really neat. You can see us cast it and everything. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. So,
And then, do we have the other cast from?
I do not. So the other cast that Taylor and Colton actually made there. I have another cast here, and I blanked on it. This is actually the one from Hayden.
Oh, okay.
That's why I went to pick it up, and I went, that's the Hayden cast. So I don't have the other cast.
Okay.
We do have footprint casts. They did not turn out as well as, I mean, they're in very soft mud and stuff, so they're not a pretty.
And by the time we got to it, it was degraded.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty happy and pretty proud of the handprint cast. But, yeah. So now, Mr. Skeptic, after having rocks thrown at you with no flashlights on the other shore, no proposed people over there, because you've been in there at night with me. It is pitch black.
Yeah, you can't see more than a 6 inches in front of you. I mean, it's dark because the tree canopy is so heavy. So even with a full moon, it's dark in there.
So, Mr. Skeptic, what do you think that was that night?
I can't give you a definitive answer, but that's good on both ends because it's like, okay, well, there's more to learn. There's more to figure out. I'd rather not have an answer than have an answer, if that makes sense.
I think that's the consensus of everything that we do. I mean, when you're going out and doing these researches and stuff, when you have evidence and you can debunk it, disprove it, or something,
it gets a little disheartening at times because it's like, well, then why was I out here for 12 hours freezing in the rain when it ended up just being something simple, stupid? It's like, in a case like that, it's like, I'd rather not have an answer because at least then it keeps the intrigue and curiosity alive.
And it's the more that you can disprove, when you can go out and say, well, this is this is that, and you can put labels on everything. The things that you can't put a label on are the evidence.
Yes.
I mean, that is what we're looking for. You know, like that makes the stuff that you do get even better because now you're saying, well, all of this is explainable, but this still isn't. And when you have that one thing that isn't, it is very interesting. Like if this thing, again, you're going to see a very bad video here. If this thing that I'm holding is not a handprint from a Bigfoot, tell me what made this impression and what left barefoot footprints, not bare, but naked footprints in the mud all around this area. That one case with this was like when I went out there, I was, I was like you. I'm a skeptical believer, and I need to see them. I believe in Bigfoot. I want to believe in Bigfoot, and even so, like we're looking at this evidence and the footprint cast and stuff that these Taylor and Colton made, and it was evidence. It wasn't real.
Yeah,
it was in that state of disbelief or whatever. When we had the rocks thrown at us, it was surreal.
Yeah.
It was like, I can't believe that this is actually happening. And then the next day to go into those woods and find our own tracks that we didn't find the day before.
Yeah. And we were in that same area.
Because like we said, Taylor and Colton had seen something cross the river there. There should have been evidence. There was not.
Because like we saw all our own tracks there too. It's like, because it was wet, muddy. It's like, so there were plenty of boot prints mixed in, everything like that. So you can compare them to like, oh, that's my boot, or that's a worn boot. So it's like, because my boots are always half worn. So it's easy to say, okay, that's someone's crappy boot because mine are always smooth because I wear the tread off them.
Yeah. So it's very, if it isn't what it was, I mean, that for me was the point when I went from skeptical believer to, all right, these things are real. I don't know what they are. I still don't know what they are, but they exist. And that's why I really like the Rhinelander stories.
And even for me, it's like, I pushed more towards the believing side, but to me, I'll never fully admit to it till I have a physical creature in front of me. And even like with the paranormal stuff we've done, I've come to really enjoy it. But with that, it's like, I want a handful of disprovable stuff for every one piece of actual evidence, just because there isn't much physical there.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I want a lot that we can disprove before we even say this one thing is something.
Yeah,
and just because I've seen so many ghost shows where they react to every little thing where it's like, oh, no, it's like, just shut the hell up.
Yes. So, yeah. So moving on from Rhinelander, we have had a lot of evidence come out of Rhinelander. That's just the tip of the iceberg. We got some new stuff coming out. I can't talk about it just yet, but we are going to go in depth into some other of the Rhinelander stuff that's going on. There's other people in the area that have had encounters. There are still recent sightings going on around that area of Rhinelander within about a 20-mile radius. And we have been investigating that this year as well.
Mhm.
So we are constantly still out there. We were actually up there a couple weeks ago. Myself, you, Derek, and Resnick took a walk through the Hombo Nature area. So, I mean, you guys can go out there too. It is a public access. The Hombo Nature Preserve, or Hombo State Natural Area is what it's called.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to find where the entrance is. It's like behind a, what is it, a college dorm?
Apartment? Yeah, it's a
So I think
weird
it's
building.
a college dorm. But that night, like, we really didn't find anything. But I saw 2 newts, which that was the first time I've seen those in the wild. So that was worth it to me right there, because I've just never seen a newt in the wild before.
I haven't either.
So that was super cool.
You know what they say about doing Bigfooting or you know, any kind of this stuff. If you go out and you know, hike through the woods and you want to see Bigfoot and you want to have that Bigfoot experience and you don't, you're going to be disappointed. If you go out in the woods and you take your friends along with you and you see a newt and you enjoy the time that you had and you go out there just for the experience, you're never going to be let down.
No, it was absolutely worth the 2.5-hour drive up there. And it's like, and we didn't come away with anything except newts and a couple toads, but we had a great time.
And I do want to point out that, again, no evidence is evidence. And even though you don't see something that time, that means that the time when there is something in there, it didn't belong there. You know, so if we're going in there and we're constantly, you know, hearing branch breaks or, you know, something big moving around or these, you know, Bigfoot howls or, you know, that kind of stuff, well, maybe it's road noise or maybe it's, you know, something like that that's causing this, that's natural. And when we're going in there and we're hearing road noise that isn't the same as what we heard, and we're getting noises and stuff on occasion, that you get this uneasy feeling of being watched or followed and stuff like that. And then other times you go in there and you could sleep right in the middle of the path and be completely fine.
You kind of create a MO for the area. So that way, when something is out of place, you know for sure it's out of place, which is huge. That's why having constant access to these areas is such a good thing. Because there was one thing I think we figured out, it was just noise from the road after like the previous 2 times thinking it was something else. And then we finally figured out, like, oh no, there's a road right over there. It's just cars.
Yep, we get that a lot. That's why, like, you know, I always say, like, paranormal and stuff, when we go out and do these investigations, yeah, it's cool to go see different places and that, but are you really learning anything? You know, when you're going to all these famous locations and stuff to see it and investigate it, you're there for one night, a couple hours. You get a couple EVPs, and what have you gained from that? You haven't learned anything. When you have access to a building or a location and you can go back there time after time after time, and we've been very lucky to have access to the stuff that we have, like Gainer's Tavern, the Bean Snapper building, or, you know, the Rhinelander property or the Hayden Adventure property or up by Floyd, and et cetera, and on and on and on. When we have access to these areas where we can do studies, do research, and go in and investigate, we can actually get information and learn things and have those experiences, so that when you truly have an experience, like we said, it's a lot more important than when you just think you did. You know, you can prove it.
And a good example is that is like just how much access we have to Bean Snappers. It's like, yeah, I've been there on just a regular night where it's like any other building, but then the next week everything's going crazy. You know, and having that constant access, you get to see the differences of when stuff actually is weird and when it's just a normal old building that no one wouldn't look twice at.
Normal creaking and moving of the building and stuff. And I do want to talk about one other thing, talking about weird feelings and stuff. So, and I'm pretty sure this is going to go cryptid, but I'll get your opinion on it. We talked about one of the other early cases that we did. And from my opinion, you know, of seeing you from the outside, you're not a very jumpy, scaredy cat person. For the most part, you know, it's more of a I don't care.
Yeah.
Until something comes out and grabs me, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. There's nothing here. I don't care. So we went up and we did the Paulding Light.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we tried to do for the Paulding Light is it's a dead end road in Paulding, Michigan, and at the end of this like power line cut, there's this big light that appears, and people have said it's paranormal or weird or something. And we actually took a telescope out there and looked, and we've pretty much determined that it's car headlights in our opinion.
However, I will add, even if it is just car headlights, it's a good time. Go enjoy it.
Definitely.
It's fun to watch.
And there's other things that happen there. As we did a whole episode, go watch it. But there was paranormal activity there.
Mhm.
There are people that say that they get chased by orbs of light down this road. And I know people personally that have told me that story, that have gone out there and been chased by orbs of light. We didn't have that happen.
No.
So that doesn't mean that there isn't something going on out there. But one of the things that we did try was there is a snowmobile trail that runs alongside next to the power line cut.
Mhm.
And we actually tried hiking down that. We lost radio signal. I ended up leaving you and your wife, Kayla.
Yep. And
you guys continued on. And something happened to you guys. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about that? Because like I said, you're not a scared person.
Yeah, like we were just walking down the path, and because I grew up in the woods, I've always been around it. It's like I'm fine being outside at night 99% of the time. But we were just walking down that path, and all of a sudden it was like, nope, don't like this. We are not going to do it anymore. We're going to turn around and go back. Just had no interest in continuing. And I don't know why. Just instinct was, nope, don't go any further. Just didn't feel right.
Now, do you think that it was a natural animal or something, or?
That I couldn't tell you either way. But it's like I'm used to the sounds of the woods. I know what it sounds like when a deer is walking along a path.
It was quiet.
And it was very, very quiet. Like there weren't birds. And what time of year were we there? Like early spring?
No, that would have been
Or was it late fall?
like late fall.
Yeah, late fall. So there was a lot of leaf clutter on the ground, everything like that. So you would have heard anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just, for whatever reason, just did not like it. And I was like, nope, turn around. We're not going any further.
There have been reports of Bigfoot activity in the area.
Mhm.
Before we left, we did a couple whistles and howls, and we actually had something whistle back at us. So that was very interesting. I mean, definitely, if you're into weird paranormal and stuff like that, go check out the Paulding Light area, because there's a ton of stuff going on there, and it's definitely a good time, no matter what the Paulding Light actually is. But
yeah, and it's one of those things. It's been in the lexicon of America Backroad for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Even if it does get disproven, still go see it just to have that nostalgia of this unknown event that you can regularly see.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth missing out on.
Mm-hmm. It was probably still to this day one of my most fun investigations, because it was a very interactive public event.
Yes.
I mean, there was a ton of people there, and originally we were doing experiments with you and Kayla in a car out there.
Yeah.
Trying to recreate it and everything. So we're all watching. Oh, it's coming back. It's getting brighter. Oh, that's them. Oh, it's not them. All right, turn your lights off. It's still there. And it was a fun event.
Yeah, it was a good time.
All right, we have a couple questions over here, or comments, so I want to get to these here. Anthony says, hi guys, England here. As you know, do you think Bigfoot wants to be found for a higher reason? Because even though man thinks he has outwitted this poor creature, maybe Bigfoots have a divine path for a certain time. Maybe he's a bit rebellious like Chewie. And then he goes on to say, doesn't Chewie defeat the evil empire? So, well, you're the guest. Go ahead and take this. What do you think?
For me, I personally wouldn't put much stock in that, and part of that is a lot of these, like the word divine, where I come from on religious studies and dealing with religion in the ways I have. I tend to stay away from anything like that. For me, I would say it's probably more of, look how many new species of animal are found in the rainforest every month, year. And it'll be in areas that people are in all the time. Like, oh, hey, new frog. It's just, are the populations low enough that we just haven't really come across them? Or, you think decades ago, we didn't have the internet in 1986 or whatever. Were people seeing these things and just not talking about it because they had no way, where now information is, I can talk to someone in England in under a minute if I want to. That's relatively new to society.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, how does that change everything? Because we're learning things faster, finding things faster. Even look at like shipwrecks getting found. It happens so much more often now just because the technology is there.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I don't think it would be anything divine or supernatural in that respect. I think it'd be more of just an animal that isn't found.
I am reminded of, as I said, we were at MI Paracon this weekend, and we got to hear the amazing John Tenney give a presentation. And John Tenney starts his lecture. For those of you who don't know, look him up, listen to one of his presentations. He's phenomenal. He starts this presentation. How many people out there believe in ghosts? Half the audience raises their hand. How many people believe in UFOs? About half the audience raises their hand. How many people believe in Bigfoot? About a quarter of the audience raises their hand. And he goes, well, that's really interesting because you guys are more willing to accept in life after death and things in extraterrestrials than you are that there's a random animal on this planet that we haven't discovered yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was amazing because, yeah, you guys are so willing to accept that, there's all this other weird interdimensional extraterrestrial stuff that you don't even want to take the time to consider that this one animal's out in the woods that we haven't found. I mean, we want to pretend that, just looking at the United States, I know that you said that you're from England, I believe, but, we're talking about how there's so much land in North America that humans haven't even probably even walked on or haven't walked on in, decades,
years,
So, all right. So moving on here, we have another question here. Says, do you believe they are more active in the fall, or have you noticed a rise in sightings during that time of year in your area? So, in that aspect, no, I don't think that they're more active in the fall. But yes, there is a higher reported sightings because when are people out in the woods?
The hunting season.
So yeah, you have a lot of
season followed by gun season. You have so many people out in the woods that time of year here,
and they're being pushed out of their normal area by these things to avoid them.
Back to hunting, you even have hunters doing drives, which the purpose of a drive is to push animals out.
Yeah, so I don't think that they're more active or less active any time of year. I don't believe that they hibernate. I sincerely do believe that they follow the food source, and that doesn't mean that they migrate. It just means that they're following it in that area of where they live. I would be very, very, what do you want to say, keen on the idea that these things have probably 30, 40 mile radius at least. Based on the stuff that we've researched personally, you get similar sightings all in a similar area, or at least that's where they're living. I listened to a very interesting person speak a little while ago that Bigfoot is omnivorous, so they eat plants and animals.
Yep.
So it's more likely that their teeth structure as being an ape would lend them more towards the plant variety of that stuff. So you're going to get them doing all that stuff in the spring, summer, and fall when they have the berries, the leaves, and all that stuff that's accessible. And then when it comes to winter, they're going to have to switch over to more of an omnivorous or carnivore diet, where that's when you're going to see them picking up roadkill or eating deer or hunting that way. So that's kind of where I think that you're getting the kind of movement of patterns. So yeah. Hopefully that answers. Do you have anything to add to
that? No, I think that covers it pretty well.
Cool. All right. So back to Anthony here. Anthony says they seek them here, they seek them there, they seek them everywhere. Maybe bringing them all to the park. Never just one or two looking for him. Maybe he likes the world to know here's there, but teasing. It seems like these creatures are out in the woods, right? They live out there all the time, and they get bored. If these things are a great ape, we're the TV show for them. So when you're out camping and doing this stuff, they're going to be watching you, because if they're well fed, safe, have food source, water, everything that they need to be alive and healthy, they have nothing better to do than sit and watch what the heck you're doing, because now you're in their environment, so you have those interactions at campsites, and people having fires, loud music and stuff, have these.
And you think how inquisitive some animals can be. Like, even look at raccoons. They have a fairly high level of intelligence. They're really inquisitive. So it's, how much do they also play with you? Just for their own entertainment or understanding. But I wouldn't put like a extreme high level of intelligence with it.
Yeah.
I would look more at like the intelligence level of, like you said, great apes, orangutans, where they're capable of learning using tools, but it's not that extravagant.
They don't need it.
No.
Yeah. And even you're talking about, like, we always say, like, comparing a fish to a monkey and its ability to climb a tree.
Yes.
When you're looking at saying, like, well, a person is so smart because we build houses and we pay taxes. Well, are we really the smartest animal on earth? I mean, let's look at humankind. So let's not compare them to our level of intelligence. Let's compare them to theirs. Now, these things live out in the woods. They're hiding from us. They aren't being found, and so on and so on. Well, I consider that very intelligent, because they're avoiding us, who are like this toxic plague on the planet. We're destroying their environments. We're destroying ourselves. We're destroying the earth. So they're obviously definitely smarter than us.
And another thing I like to point out is when you consider population density, like Wisconsin, we have a high deer population. Most people have never seen a deer out in the woods unless they're actively hunting, or they see them along the side of the road. Most people, when they go out in the woods, they never see deer. They're also not actively looking, but even a creature with that high of a population density is capable of hiding and not being seen and just blending into its surroundings. Because even like foxes, we have a ton of foxes around here. A lot of people have never seen one. I see them all the time, but I'm also actively looking for the foxes because I know we have a population living in our area.
That's a very good point here I can bring up from the hiding adventure in Upper Michigan. We do a lot of Bigfoot research up there. We have trail cameras up there and everything. And so we're up there every weekend, almost for like 2 years. And we know for a fact on trail cameras, on, security cameras and stuff, there are a ton of bears on this property. We know this. We have pictures of them. We have evidence. We have footprints. No one on my team has seen a bear with their own eyes on that property.
Saw porcupine.
Yep.
But no bear.
No bears, ever. Barbara.
And they're a huge creature, too.
Yeah.
Bears are big animals.
Barb, the property owner, she sees them in their yard. She baits them. She lives there. So she has a little bit better, chance to see them. Whatever.
Yeah, her probability of seeing them is a lot higher than when you're there a couple weekends a year.
But us, we've never seen them. Never seen them once. So, and we have trail camera pictures of us being in an area, and 15 minutes later, that bear walks through the same area. So they're definitely there right when we're there. Never seen them. What do we got here? Just like the rise in ghost phenomenon during COVID, it was a rise in spirit, but people were stuck at home and couldn't ignore it.
They did a correction after that, and they believe it wasn't a rise in spirit, but people were stuck at home and couldn't ignore it.
Good.
So I get what they're saying is, there were more reports at that time, but it was just because people were home in their familiar settings and started experiencing these things that they just didn't notice before.
Right. So we're back to that whole topic of the hunters in the woods during the fall. Are there more sightings in the fall? You betcha. Is it because there's more people out there in the fall? You betcha.
Probably. It's the correlation. The population density of people in the woods is higher than it normally is.
Yep. And you're saying that the ghost phenomenon, is very much because people were staying home. They're experiencing more in their houses because they're not out doing other things. So now they're stuck there going, what was that noise?
Yeah. When you're stuck at home for 48 hours in a row, and when you haven't done that in who knows how long, you start to notice it's like, hey, that's kind of weird.
Isn't Bigfoot extraterrestrial? That's a very good question. Exactly. Ethan was in reference to the hunters. There you go. Oh, look at that. You have another fan. He needs all the fans he can get. Isn't Bigfoot an extraterrestrial? So there's a lot of theory that they could be.
I know you like to explore that. To me, it's off the table. I would view it as more of any other normal animal that we have on Earth. But
You're an aper.
yeah, but that's just how I personally view it.
Mhm.
Please prove me wrong at some point. I wouldn't mind. But as I always tell you, prove me wrong.
Yeah, definitely. So here's where I stand on this stuff. My personal opinion is based on things that I have seen, witnessed, experienced. And because of that, I will lean towards ape.
Mm-hmm.
It is a species of ape that is just a natural being in this earth that has not been discovered yet. Do I think that these things could be interdimensional, extraterrestrial, or something? Yeah. But a lot of the times I point back to the same thing of saying that. Okay. Oh, no, I didn't read that. Oh, yeah. I was looking at the article. Yeah. I do think that when you're talking about creatures like Bigfoot and stuff, that a lot of the things that people believe are supernatural or weird phenomenon or something is because you don't understand. You know, like when we're talking about like the octopus can change colors, chameleons can change colors, platypuses, for those of you who don't know, are poisonous. You know, so these animals that we know are flesh and blood animals, they don't have any supernatural abilities that we are aware of because we're very limited in our knowledge of this stuff as well.
Yeah.
But you're looking at these creatures from a standpoint that we don't know what we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If Bigfoot is a very solid earthly creature that just can do things that we don't understand, you know, it doesn't mean that it's from a different planet or from a different dimension. It's just we just don't know what it can do. So hope that makes that point. What do we got here? Next time you all do a Bigfoot excursion, I would love to go. Never been with others and never had a chance to boots in the research. You guys rock. Definitely giving you a follow. Awesome. Thank you very much. WisconsinCaps.com. And you can go find us everywhere. Facebook, YouTube, everything. Search Wisconsin Caps. Ethan, move your head.
Okay.
There it is. Right behind Ethan. Right above him. WisconsinCaps.com. Thank you, sir. But yeah, all of our links are on there. Follow us, like us, subscribe on YouTube. We would really appreciate it. If you love the show, go to our show shop and use your words. And you can get all of our t-shirts and merchandise and all that stuff. You guys, if you want to come out and meet us in person, we will be at September 17th. We will be in Ripon, Wisconsin at the Potographs event. Dustin Perry, Chris Williams, Shane Pittman, Jay Bachochin, Tim Miley, who was a guest on the show. Ton of people are going to be there. I'm sorry, I know I'm forgetting a ton of you guys, but there's a bunch of cool people that are going to be there. Tickets are available. Go to Potographs, visit them on Facebook or their website. And we'll also be, for those of you out of state, in Iowa, we'll be coming up at the Van Meter Visitor Festival on September 24th in Van Meter, Iowa. Chad Lewis is going to be there with us, and Nash Hoover from Chasing Legends. And I don't know what else we're going to be at off the top of my head this year, but we will be at CryptidCon in Lexington, Kentucky in November. And that is a huge cryptid event. We will be there set up. The guys from the Hodag store will be there. Those guys are awesome. Stop by and get some Hodag root beer and all kinds of stuff. Or go to Rhinelander, Wisconsin, and check out Ben Burnell's store, the Hodag store, and check out all of his stuff. So, one last question here, and I think we're good. Isn't Bigfoot more gorilla-like dung, you think? Don't you think? More of a gorilla. So I can't speak to that as much as I'd like to. I will quote back to Jeff Meldrum.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Meldrum, if you're not familiar with him, is like the most important Bigfoot scientist. He's actually a Dr. Jeff Meldrum of anthropology at Iowa State University, I believe.
Yeah, you can easily say, the most respected on the subject.
There you go. Credible, respected. His viewpoint is that they are more like orangutan in the fact that there's probably one male that travels between a different groups of females and the juveniles. So as far as the species correlation there, they're probably more similar to orangutans than gorillas. But again, we don't know. This is just from speculation of the characteristics, the behavioral patterns, the stuff like that.
And without, a physical animal in front of you, it's hard to really answer a lot of questions like that until you have a creature, animal, you can actually study, interact with.
Definitely. And I think that's the key word, that when you're looking at these things, if you have a body, there's a big difference between seeing a dead one too, or a type specimen, than actually being able to research them in the wild. Cliff Barrickman from Finding Bigfoot says it best. It's no longer a question of if they exist. It's a matter of how, when, and where. So it's not looking for trying to prove that the species is out there, but more on the fact that we want to study and learn from the behaviors. I find it very fascinating. One of the presentations that Cliff Barrickman actually gives is he's discussing the foot morphology and being able to look at these different footprint casts that he's collected over the years and being able to distinguish individuals. So you can actually track the same Bigfoot over a course of years and where it's been based on looking and studying that individual's footprint and the way that it leaves an impression. Maybe the toe sticks out farther, or there's a good case of one that's called cripple foot, where the foot is actually deformed. So you have a normal foot and then a cripple foot. And they've been able to research this one, and that's one of the studies that he has. So if you ever get a chance to listen to Cliff Barrickman or go see him in person at any of these events, I definitely suggest it, because, this guy will talk casts and footprints all day of these things, and he is a wealth of knowledge. He has a great website, the North American NABC, North American Bigfoot Center, out in Boring, Oregon, and he has a lot of this stuff. So very interesting as well. And then he also has cliffbarrickman.com, where you can go on and look at all these different footprints that he has and compare them and see them for yourself. He actually has the different casts and stuff. So, yeah. You have anything else to add, sir?
One thing I haven't mentioned, but since you mentioned Chad Lewis, I was going to bring it up. I believe you have the location we went to wrong, because from my understanding, it was more by Chippewa Falls, from what I was able to pick up off his websites and stuff like that.
The chickens?
Yeah. Sounds like that location is in Chippewa Falls and not where you took me to.
Well, you got to blame Ma for that.
Okay. As long as my anger is directed at the right person. Because everything I've looked at says Chippewa Falls and not where we were.
Do you want to tell your ghost story first? Your chicken story? We were filming an investigation for Urban Legends episode, or actually for the test. We were filming for the test episode with Derek and Fathom, and testing their abilities to pick up on stuff. That's a totally different story. But after we got done early, and we said to Ethan, "Do you want to go and film some Urban Legends stuff?" And he says, "Well, I got nothing better else to do tonight, so yeah, sure."
So why not? And then I'm standing out on the corner in the middle of nowhere in this cold road.
Crossroads. You were standing in Crossroads.
With nothing going on for, 15 minutes, half an hour, to the point where I'm just like, this is stupid. What are we doing? And I directed all that anger towards this author, unfortunately, which nothing against him at this point now, because after I've done all my research, it was, okay, we were in the wrong spot.
But that is Chicken Alley.
It is, but I just think it's a similar name. We're in the wrong location.
Well, sir, I will ask him, because he is going to be at Van Meter, Iowa.
Find out, please.
Yeah.
And then
Ethan wants to chase his chickens again.
Yeah, and then we can touch on it again. We'll go to Chippewa Falls, and if there's nothing there, then people can watch me hit you with a baseball bat on YouTube.
Well, I'm sure that'll get us a lot of ratings. So, definitely, yeah. So, apparently there. All right. So, if anybody out there knows anything about the ghost chickens of Chicken Alley, it happens to be one of our viewers right now. Do you know anything about it? Leave a comment real quick here. Chicken Alley. It's a story in Chad Lewis's book of these ghost chickens, and the rumor that if you take a picture of the road sign of Chicken Alley, you can't do it because it disappears. You can't get a picture of it. Stuff like that. If you're familiar with that at all, leave a comment. Shoot us an email, wisconsincaps@gmail.com. All hate mail will be forwarded to this man right behind me here. I'll make sure that he gets...
You pretty much got nothing on what I can respond with.
Yeah. But, so... Yeah, so Bigfoot can leave messages everywhere. They're everywhere, even under Watch Wellstrom.
Yeah, I think you're getting played there.
Yeah, I think they're everywhere. I think Bigfoot is definitely very out there. So awesome. All right. Without any further ado, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. I appreciate you guys listening. I am sorry that we did not have Jody Cook on. Hopefully we guys gave you some good information. Go check out, if you're interested in more on the Rhinelander stuff we were talking about, there's a 2-part documentary called The Rhinelander Howls on YouTube. And you guys can go check that out on our YouTube page. You can go to wisconsincaps.com, click on episodes, and you can watch it right there as well. But yeah, definitely go check that out. 2 parts. We do a little bit on the Hodag in that episode too. Give you a little bit about the history of it.
Yep, and the Hodag's it's a fun Wisconsin thing. It's the bread and butter of Rhinelander.
I can't reach him. I don't know where he is. A little Hodag. All right, whatever. He's back there. Oh, back there. He's back there somewhere. But yeah. So yeah, next time we have no guest, you can look forward to a Q&A segment or show and tell of all the crap behind me, because I know
there's a lot of it.
I know there's certain people out there that are interested. There's a lot of cool stuff back there, especially right here. This rock has a very cool story, and hopefully we can talk about that too as well on a future show. So that'll leave you want more. But yeah, that rock right there has a cool story. You don't even know the story of that rock.
No, I'm just looking at all your stuff. You're always adding stuff.
I am. I added stuff this weekend. I got a little jackalope back there.
Yeah, I see that.
All right. So, guys, thanks for watching. Next week, there is no show. No show next Monday. I believe we're doing like a rerun show. I think. I don't know. But if not, you might get to watch a rerun show. If not, then there will just be no live show next week because it is Labor Day. And then after that, thank you. I love them too. They're adorable. The little antelope back there. He's cute. Yeah, so next week there's no show, and then following that is Dan will be on here. He is a Bigfoot researcher. He is a herpetologist and a photographer. He has traveled all over investigating Bigfoot and other weird creatures and stuff. So I definitely look forward to our discussion with him. And if you guys have any reptile questions or any Bigfoot questions, you guys can come back and share them then. Until next time, I'm Barnaby.
I'm Ethan.
We'll see you out there.